this webinar with Jen Knight. Jen Knight is from the SAFE Coalition. She is the executive director for this organization. SAFE is a nonprofit organization that seeks to provide local resources to those impacted by some substance use disorder. As we all know, there has just been a huge spike over the past several years of opiate addiction and loss of life to many of our young teens and young adults in our surrounding communities in Metro West, and Safe Coalition is a response to that issue. Jen's goal with starting the Safe Coalition, she is the person alongside a gentleman by the name of Jim Derrick, who's the president of the organization. They worked together to start Safe. Was to hear the needs of the community and through partnerships provide in time sustainable programming to those seeking prevention, education, crisis, and recovery opportunities. So beyond SAFE, Jen spent 6 years working along the US-Mexican border within the foster care system. She previously managed the Riverside Community Care PACT team, has been awarded numerous accolades for community service, and sits on various local and county boards for substance use and mental health aid. Outside of SAFE, Jennifer is a firefighter's wife and a mother of 2 beautiful boys, is an avid women's ice hockey club player. I did not know that about you, Jen, and enjoys weekend hikes with her family. For those of you who are not sure how this came to be tonight, you are watching and learning and being educated by Jen. Jen's Safe Coalition is in partnership with our nonprofit organization, or my nonprofit organization, called Ben Speaks Louder Than Words. Ben Speaks was born through the loss of my middle child, Benjamin, to suicide in 2009. And we too are very similar in our mission to the Safe Coalition, which is to provide channels of expression and empowerment for a whole child approach to wellness through clinical and holistic resources and education, working with the community, listening to the community, having our ear to the ground, just like the Safe Coalition. So we're in partnership. We help each other. We help the people in the community to address these low self-esteem issues that are leading to drugs and kids hurting themselves in the ways that we see them doing that through drugs and suicide. So I'm going to hand you guys over to Jen. She is an amazing human. She's going to speak to you tonight about thriving into wellness, the teenage, how to deal with teenagers post-quarantine, which I'm sure is top of mind for many parents today. So welcome, Jen. We're really grateful to have you here and hear what you got to say.
Wonderful, Judy. Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here. You know, I think that on this nice, warm, sunny day, we are all feeling the effects of post-quarantine-ish life. And quarantine, I think, really impacted all of us, individually, within our family systems, within our schools and our work-life balance. And one of the wonderful things that came out of this quarantine COVID life is this relationship with Ben Speaks. And, I think when the coalition first started, we were really looking for community partners that were doing similar work and really listening to the needs of the community and building up from that. And from a Safe Coalition perspective, we're so thankful for Ben Speaks, and I'm so thankful for all of you who are here today, because it takes all of us together, working together and sharing our stories and sharing our knowledge to be more prepared and to support ourselves and every single person that we love within our community. So Judy and I have been talking over the last year, and we have really been focused on sharing information that has to do with developing individuals, and especially those who are under the age of 18. We know that quarantine and the election and work and school balance have all shifted this past year, and how complicated it is for us as adults, and how much more complicated must it be for the developing adolescent mind. So I did want to start off tonight with a few really interesting statistics that I think would be important to share. We at the Safe Coalition, while we started in the town of Franklin, we now cover 9 other communities directly. Certainly, if you live anywhere, you can call us and we will try and connect you with supports. But 9 direct communities. And as we have been growing and developing, we've been able to branch out and provide different styles of services and support. So as the program has developed during quarantine, one of the programs that has seen a significant rise in attendance has been our substance use cessation program. This was developed because we were hearing from school systems that there was a real concern about students using substances in school and on the weekends and at home with their families. And as a way to decrease school suspensions and increase the opportunities for children to learn and become educated about mental health and substance use, we, in partnership with Stanford University, created a classroom out of school suspension alternative program. And a few statistics that I think are really important. So far to date, we've had 22 students participate in this program. We have within this program a host of questionnaires, the ACEs study questionnaire we do, the CRAFT questionnaire study we do. And I think it's really important to highlight a few of these statistics that have come out of those results. So out of all the students that we connected with, the number one concern for students was not their substance use, but was their anxiety and depression. The vast majority of students scored a 5 or higher on ACEs. All of the students, every single student that we have worked with, self-identified that they have ADD or ADHD. The majority of those students have not been formally diagnosed. When we speak to the students about substance use, I ask 3 questions. What do you feel like before you use? What do you feel like while you're using? And what do you feel like after your high is over? And the number one identifying word that students use to clarify how they feel before they start using is bored. The average age of first use of marijuana is 14, with the youngest being 6. And the majority of students have highlighted that they are purchasing substances from local drug dealers. All of these statistics are a little bit jarring and are a little bit shocking. And I share them not because I want to create fear and chaos and as a scare tactic, but because this is what is really going on with our adolescents. And while the course and the program are focused around substance use awareness and education, what we see most literally is that the largest concern that we see, that the children see, is with anxiety and depression. So when we bring our students in and we have conversations about substance use and we ask them why anxiety and depression are a gateway to them feeling like they need to self-soothe, they often say that the things that they're concerned about, they don't know how to say out loud. And what they mean by that is they feel like they're falling behind. They feel like they aren't listened to. They feel like they need to fit in. And if fitting in means using substances or not talking about their thoughts and feelings, then that is what they will do. Many of the students have highlighted that their stress level has increased during the time of COVID and that their isolation has increased as well. We all know that movement and motion and nutrition are crucial for body and brain growth and development. Most of us were involved in programming from a very young age, whether it was dance classes or t-ball or soccer, or we were volunteering. And that was because those who raised us believed that movement and community were crucial. And this past year, movement and community have been most literally taken away from these students without any other opportunity to recreate. Recreation is crucial. So when we've been working with these teens and we've been gathering these numbers and looking at these statistics, it's been really important for us to understand and recognize, one, that the kids and the students that we're working with are using substances because they don't like the way that they're feeling. And they don't like the way that they're feeling because they don't know any other way to move through their emotions. And that's pretty important to note. The last piece of this that I really want to highlight as it relates to substance use and these statistics is the miseducation and misunderstanding on substances. So, marijuana is a substance that is frequently used with middle school and high school aged youth. And there is a common misconception, one that marijuana is not concerning as it relates to chemical health in the body, and also that it's no different than marijuana that their parents smoked 20 years earlier. And as of last week, the new DEA results were released. And what we are realizing and what we've come to realize is that for one THC vape cartridge, there are 66 joints at a 1990 THC percentage, which is pretty incredible. So that means that that joint that you see being passed around in a movie that would have happened in the early 90s, a student or your child is now smoking in a cartridge multiple times a week at 66 joints per cartridge. It's pretty incredible. The majority of students that we work with say that they have smoked 2 to 3 carts a week. Not only has the increase in marijuana changed over the last 2 decades, but the intensity of the actual product that they're using has changed as well. This kind of leads to my next piece, which I think is really important to talk about, signs related to social emotional needs. So I just kind of shared a few statistics with you as to what we're seeing when students come into our vaping classroom, because we all know that often when someone is using substances at a really young age and they're using them frequently, they're really using to mask something else. And that something else is related to social emotional wellness. What is it that the substance is able to make you feel that you can't get from anything else that you found yet? So often when we work with parents who are just finding out that their child has been using substances, maybe they got a call from the police or they got a call from the school or they got a call from another parent, we sit down with the family and we ask them to share with us what their experience with their child has been over the last year or the last 2 years. And more than often, parents are sharing that there's been a difference, there's been a change, there's been a shift. Their child is isolating, they're not communicating as much, they're on the phone much more often, they are more irritable or frustrated, their sleeping patterns have changed, their mood has changed, how they spend time with family members or close friends that they've had for years has changed. And so when we think about things to look out for, those are the things. Are those in your family isolating and not wanting to spend time? And are you having a hard time connecting? Are they laughing? Are they spending time away from electronics and wanting to spend time with you? If the answer is no, then there may be something more going on. Does that mean substance use? No, absolutely not. But it does mean that there's a shift or a difference. Now, if quarantine hadn't happened, I think this whole conversation would be a lot different. But quarantine did happen. And I think it is crucial for us to highlight that all kids watch adults. Kids are the ultimate observers and the ultimate forgivers. And as everyone has been home over the last year, our children have been watching everything that we are doing, how we're understanding the news, how we're understanding politics, how we're understanding our work life, how we're managing our stress. And so if we have been challenged in spending time with the family or having a similar mood day in and day out, or we have struggled to find motivation, then of course our children are going to as well. And that's by no fault of anyone. That's just how family systems work. And so if we talk about being a role model for children and working with families and wanting to make sure that families have the best supportive systems, we also have to talk about what that looks like if those things aren't there. And talking about that is crucial. So if we expect that our students are or our children are going to jump back into school and they're not going to have any social emotional issues and they're going to get back with all of their friends and have a great attitude and wake up ready to go to school, I think that we're kidding ourselves, because while the world has changed and we as parents have changed, your children have changed as well. And we have to honor that. When we look at the past year, it hasn't just been COVID. There have been adults who have been fighting back and forth on TV. There have been politics that have shaken our nation to the core. There have been massive debates on science, on medication, on the things that we never thought that we'd argue about, on top of huge social justice issues such as race relations and the Green New Deal and LGBTQ cultural shifts. And so our children are seeing all of these different mixed messages and are not really sure where to go, where to turn, and what to trust. And we all may be too tired or not have the words or the language to honor a conversation. And yet it's so important that we try. You know, when we think about the work that we do with our adult friends, which is have conversations or not have conversations, or read everything on Facebook that we can, or block someone on Facebook because it's too much. We as adults know that we have the ability to do that, to block, to take a time out, or to get more information or get new and accurate information. But we do that intrinsically. Our youth may not have all of those skills. So when we talk about signs related to social emotional wellness, it's crucial that we talk about what role modeling looks like. It's important for us to take time and meet our children where they are. Go up to their bedroom and invite them downstairs. Spend time with our children without any kind of electronics. Recognize that the world has shifted and changed, and you have changed, and it's okay that your child has too. When we think about conversations and how to introduce these conversations, it's really important that we do that in a way that creates an alliance. We all know that those middle school and high school years can be so challenging because life is changing and school is changing and friends are changing and expectations and future plans are changing. Hormones are changing. And so how do we create a beautiful balance of parent-child relationship without breaking at the seams because we don't know how to host a lovely, warm conversation? So, in working with a lot of students, we ask them what they would like to see their relationship with their parents be. And almost every child wants their parent to be open and kind and understanding and not judgmental. And I think that that not judgmental piece has been really interesting to hear. When I ask students to clarify, they never share that they feel like their parents are judgmental of their friends. They say that they want their parents to understand the world that they're growing up in, that they're living with, that they're living in. And I think that that's really important. All of these children that we are growing and raising and spending time with and around have grown up only with war. Many with political chaos, many with news that is challenging and confusing. And most significantly, and what I've heard over and over again, is a really struggling understanding of global warming and what it means to take care of the world and the planet around us. And more recently, the LGBTQ community and what it means to be in transition and what it means to move through challenges and changes. And so, Judy, absolutely, I know.
I have a question for you. I could listen to you all day. I mean, you're so articulate and you're so on point with so much of what we're seeing in the landscape of families today. But I'm just curious if you have any research or an opinion, at least about, do you think it's best to keep kids? And if so, what age is appropriate to really have those current events top of conversation and, have those conversations with your kids about some of these things that we're seeing in our culture today that are so challenging and disturbing and creating a feeling of chaos, anxiety, depression? Is it better to talk with them about it from that place of understanding, kindness, generosity, allowing for opinions to be heard, allowing your kids to be heard? What do you guys find and what do you recommend about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I think all of our children are watching us.
Mhm.
And our children know that there are political issues going on, and know that global warming is a hot topic, and know that that social justice issues are happening every day. And if we don't host a conversation, someone else or something else will. And so what has been most successful at the Safe Coalition, in working with families and conversations that we've had at our office, is to invite the conversation to be open-ended. So say, have you been hearing about social justice issues? Do you know what it means to be in transition? Have you heard about that? And more often than not, our children have a better understanding on some of these topics that are newer and different and changing than some of the parents do. But I think it is absolutely crucial that we invite the conversation to start, and that we keep it going, and that harsh opinions don't provide a layer of learning. They only provide a layer of judgment.
That's a great answer. I can say that myself, for myself personally, that I tend to stay away from the news. I know that if there's something I need to learn about or know about, I can read about it in a newspaper. I can find out about it on Facebook. And for me, I'm super high empathetic. I have a lot of, I'm what I call an empath, so I absorb energy. So when I hear a lot of negative news, which is what I find the news to be, it can really impact me in a negative way. Do you guys speak to that at all with the kids that you work with?
Yeah, certainly. I think so. We talk about what the news is and what it doesn't have to be.
Mhm.
You can watch the news or hear things that are going on, but you don't need to take that on as your own. And also, a lot more kids, when we open up this conversation, talk about their own trauma.
Mhm.
And I think that that's really important to highlight, that not every student that we work with comes through the Safe Coalition doors without lived experience of something. And I think that it's crucial to talk about, because if we don't talk about it, then they may feel like they don't belong, or that they don't have a voice, or that they shouldn't have a voice and an opinion about something that really does impact them. Um,
Yeah,
but
it creates denial too. It's like putting your head
yes,
in the sand. So
yeah.
it's finding that balance between, putting your head in the sand and being aware and being given an opportunity to speak to whatever's, happening for you.
Absolutely. And I think, Judy and you and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, where sometimes we host this understanding that we need to be experts at all the things.
Mhm.
And if we allow a conversation to be open-ended, we don't have to be an expert, we just have to be understanding.
Right.
And how wonderful is that we don't have to always have an opinion for everything. We don't have to have an expectation for a group of people or some kind of larger political decision. That you can learn and think and process, and learn and think and process, and all of that is part of being human, and all of that is being okay.
Right. And your opinion will change on a daily basis sometimes
Yeah, and
based
you're
on
allowed to grow through
that
that.
process. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I think, the best teachers are always a student first. So,
Yeah, and being a lifelong learner, it's okay to learn more about yourself. And the more that we can engage our children with thinking independently, the
mhm,
more they can think independently about the world around them and find value and self-worth, not in the headlines, but in their own thoughts and feelings, which I think is just so
exactly.
crucial.
It is. It's core. It's so important.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
Um,
I feel
and I
like we're in a culture that the true cancer of our culture today is the cancer of low self-worth in our youth.
Right, absolutely. And if we only value athleticism, if we only value National Honor Society students, if we only value, this style of a work ethic that means that you get up and you volunteer at 17 places and you have a part-time job and you do this and you do that, if we only value things that are attainable for the top 5%, what does it send to that message to everybody else?
Exactly.
Um, there's a space for everyone to matter, and there's certainly a space for everyone to learn from each other.
Mhm.
And so we have to model what it looks like to invite conversations that are uncomfortable, not because we have the answers, but because we want to learn about those around us.
Yes. So there is a question here from Kim Halloran who's on, she asks, how to tame, oh, she's the one who asked how to tame the video game addiction. So she,
Awesome. Wonderful question. So I don't have a solid answer, and I want to honor that.
all right,
So the video game addiction is really challenging because this last year, almost the only way for kids to communicate was through technology, and one of those ways is through gaming. Um, I think we want to make sure that our children feel like they're connected to a community and that they're action oriented and that those that they're close with are good friends of theirs. Um, but I think that you as a parent, you're allowed to set up parameters about how your child spends time. Um, Certainly, if you're recognizing that your child is wanting to game before school, after school, during meal times, um, or is becoming emotionally connected to the outcome of the game, then there's a larger concern there. Addiction is really interesting. So at the Safe Coalition, we recognize addiction as a disease, and we recognize that dopamine and dopamine levels are directly related to addiction. So if we are recognizing a child's relationship to video games as an addiction, that means that we need to work with them in a way that modifies that dopamine level, but also we create a new outlet for dopamine for that dopamine release. We need to find a new way for that child to recreate. So is this child connected to video games because they love the community of people that they're gaming with, or do they love the video games because it takes their mind off of something else that's going on, or are they connected to video games because they like the win? These are the questions that we would need to answer to figure out kind of where to go next. um, Certainly I would love to sit down offline and kind of learn a little bit more. I think age is really important, and how long um, this child has been playing video games, and how intense they are um, around this. I think that it's a really challenging time because video games and cell phones and social media are the only way that many kids have been able to connect. But that doesn't mean that it needs to stay that way. And we as parents are really responsible in a way for developing our children's social skills and independent skills. And while it's really challenging and really hard, there has to be a piece of us that is dedicated to moving past the screen time and into real life time. That doesn't mean that it's easy at all, at all, at all, at all. So I think that, connecting maybe offline about what the next best step and kind of assessing that can be crucial. Um, because certainly we've worked with a few kids that really were struggling with their mental health and used video games to isolate and focus their attention on something else. And then we've also met with one or two kids who use video games to socialize because they had such high anxiety that socializing one on one or within a group of people in person was almost too much to do. But they still wanted a community of friends. So I think really recognizing that addiction is a disease within the brain related to dopamine, and that whenever we transition someone or talk about transitioning someone from one struggle that they're having, we really want to talk about other ways that are safe and healthy to recreate and get the whole family system involved.
yeah, so it sounds like it's about trying to find as many positive channels for how kids express themselves. And as you said, based on your statistics, that so many of these kids today are expressing to you guys that anxiety and depression is the feelings that they're having, is the biggest concern that they have. So whether it be video games, drugs, alcohol, you know, all the different ways that we self-medicate, video games is just another one of those addictive habits that kids use to try to self-nurture and to self-regulate themselves around what sounds like anxiety and depression overall.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And um, video games are popular, right? They're easy, they're right there, they're popular. And so many times, Judy and I have spoken about this, so many times I connect with kids and we talk about the arts. And it's almost like a lot of our kids struggle with even knowing it's okay to journal, knowing that it's okay to do artwork outside of like the fifth grade classroom. Know that it's okay to do guided meditation and be interested in other art forms, be interested in writing or poetry and reading. And so while that's not going to capture everyone, I think the larger conversation is that so many of the students that I've worked with don't know that there are so many other opportunities to express themselves, and feel feelings beyond looking at a screen.
Mhm.
And that's something that we really want to focus on, when we work with kids at the coalition. And especially, Ben speaks that there's a way of self-expression that doesn't need to be through a screen.
Absolutely.
And what does it mean to provide a layer of self-expression by yourself without anybody else seeing? And that's something that most of our kids don't even know that that life can exist, because they're so used to, as
Yep.
we all are, right? This life of being online, and being visible in all the things that we do, or that if you don't have visibility, you don't matter.
Right. And that goes right back to the dopamine. If I'm liked 18 times, that triggers that dopamine in the brain that makes me feel like I'm worthy you know, and I feel that. And so if I don't have those likes, the dopamine does not get activated. And so that must mean that I'm not liked, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
lowers self-esteem and self-worth. It's just this vicious cycle.
It is. It's really challenging because we all have fallen into this realm of cell phones that hold all of our information, and social media that holds all of the things that we think other people value about us, and our work life that is honored through screens. And
Right.
so, by no fault of anyone, so we're kind of here now.
Patterned.
Um,
It's patterned. It's
yes.
habitual, and it's sourcing outside of oneself. And so kids are, not they haven't been trained to source from within. They haven't been trained to, really settle into their own feelings and even pay attention to their own feelings in relation to the world around them. It's more the world around them in relation to their feelings.
Yeah, you said that so beautifully, and I think that highlighting what you said before, that the likes, that the more likes you have is a validating piece, but it's only validating because somebody else said it to you. And so, how do you find self worth? How do you know what that looks like? Or how do you know what that feels like? And I think, when we think about ways that parents can talk with their children, really recognizing that sitting side by side matters so much. So many parents will say the best conversations they've ever had with their kids have been in the car. And you're not facing each other in the car, you're sitting side by side. And so, really making sure that if you're wanting to have a conversation that you're nervous about as a parent, or is emotional, sit side by side so you can kind of look around and you give your child the ability to kind of look around and answer questions. And it's not this authoritative, um, I'm asking the question, you're going to give me an answer, but a conversation that's really open ended, without an answer that needs to be provided. I know
It's
that
funny
there.
that you're saying that because my daughter used to feel trapped in the car.
Okay.
Yeah. She would say, I don't like getting in the car with you because I feel trapped. It's when you always bring up conversation in the car and I feel like I have no way out.
Well, I mean, that's kind of true. We can't blame her for that one.
So I
um,
used to invite her for a walk. And one of the things that I used to do with my daughter is give her 5 minutes. She was so stressed, so empathic, so sensitive, and definitely bullied and had a huge inner bully, had a lot of self-esteem and self-worth issues, a lot of, trauma in her life, and addiction through the family, the cultural aspect of our family, the family dynamics that were at play. And I used to let her come into the car, especially in high school, and I'd call it her 5-minute bitch session, that she could say anything she wanted to. I didn't care if she swore, even that she could just process and just let it all out. And that was really helpful for her. And I would give no judgment. I would just allow it. And she had 5 minutes to do that. And then when she was done, she was done. And that helped her a lot. It was, for me, a way to give her positive channel of expressing herself and feeling like she's being heard, and that there's no feedback about anything that she's saying that's making her feel wrong or judged.
Judy, yes.
Yeah.
And you allowed her to have a voice.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have a voice, and it's okay to say things out loud. And it's okay to say things out loud with not the expectation that someone's going to give you an answer back.
Right. Or make you feel wrong for what you're saying. It's just
Yes.
letting her purge. It was a purge for her. And for Benjamin, who was severe OCD and bipolar, as you know, and we lost him to suicide in 2009. I used to, every night when he got home, I would push on his back, and I'd sit on his butt and push on his back, and he would take a breath in, and before I pushed on his back, he would open his mouth, and then he would make sound, and he would release all of the angst from the day before. Both of my kids needed that to clear their energy, because if they didn't, they were just more and more explosive, reactive, unhappy, depressed, anxious. It really helped both of them a lot. And I really, have found over the years, with my own children, as well as lots of kids that I too have worked with, that that's a huge tool, is to really give them a way to express themselves, whatever that is.
And that's, I think we're going to talk about that in a minute, but that role modeling, that self-expression is crucial. I think we got a question. How do you stop yourself from doom surfing on your social media each night?
I don't even know what that means.
This is a great question. Well, it's easy to dive deep into the chaos of the world that we have no control over. And here is what I've been practicing myself. If I have zero control over what I'm looking at or what I'm reading, I shouldn't be reading it past 8 p.m. So, I mean, let's be real. There are days where I'm still like doing some work late at night once the kiddos have gone to bed. But if I'm up and I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram and I'm, click, 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 going down the rabbit hole, if it's not helpful to me, then I really, really try to like physically put my phone down and away and charge it in another room. Because I don't think that I'm alone in this. There's definitely been nights where I have stayed up way later than I ever wanted to, reading bonkers things that added no value to my life and probably created more anxiety or chaos. And so I think physically removing an item from your hands is crucial. The other idea would be to set an alarm on your phone. So at 8:15 every night, an alarm goes off that tells you to stop doom.
We just lost you. You just froze a little bit, so we're hoping you come right back. Now I know what doom searching is. It's so funny because you froze for a minute.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
After I read it and you started to talk about it, I got it. But like I said, I'm not somebody who watches the news, so I don't look for things that are, going to provoke me to feel negative. And, I try to stay in as much of a positive vibe as possible without putting my head in the sand. But great answer. I love the idea of putting the phone down. I think, having a time, a hard stop.
A hard stop. And I do think that the past year, there have been a lot of new emotions that have been pulled out of us as individuals as we relate to friends and family. So again, I don't think that I'm alone in this, where friends and family that I love and cherish had different political views or had different thoughts on things that I hold near and dear to my heart. And if I spend time focused on the things that I find different between our relationship, I become unhappy. And I really believe that that's part of doom surfing, where you're on social media, someone that you love and care about posts something that you disagree with, and then you start feeling all the feelings. In that moment, there's nothing more that you can do. So between putting your phone physically away, or not going on social media sites on your laptop or your iPad if you're using those items, or setting a physical alarm. Those can be pretty helpful,
Awesome.
to kind of turn all that stuff off.
Yeah, love it.
And I think, that lastly, really modeling behavior. I think that we've talked a lot about struggles that our adolescents are facing right now, and um, and that children most literally are the ultimate observers. And so, as we adults recognize what's going on in the world and feel stress or our own anxiety or our own depression, parents, we are not without our own mental health challenges and struggles, and that's okay. How we move through those struggles is what our children are watching for. So when we've had a challenging day, do we open a bottle of wine or do we go for a walk?
Mhm.
Do we talk about our thoughts and feelings and maybe cry? Or do we become angry and frustrated that we can't control things and yell at those we care about? Do we eat things that are unhealthy and feel unmotivated and just lay on the couch, or do we focus really hard on filling our bodies and our minds with things that are going to help us because the world around us is chaotic and we don't need to join that. I think modeling what we hope to see with our children is crucial. We've had so many families come through SAFE who are fabulous, wonderful moms and dads and absolutely want the best for their children, and yet they don't want to give themselves the best. So a huge piece of what I really want to share is that if you are a parent of an adolescent and you feel like maybe there are some mental health concerns, or maybe there are areas in their life that they could benefit from seeing a counselor or a clinician, that sometimes you have to model that first step too.
Absolutely.
The world of therapy can be scary, and it's not linear. And so if we as parents can model what it looks like to ask for help appropriately, go to therapy appropriately, maybe do it together, recognize that therapy can come in various styles of forms, and that while one size doesn't fit all, it's okay to start somewhere.
It is, and I think
It's
I
crucial.
love that point, Jen. I think it's so important because so often, teenagers, like you said, they're always observing us, and as soon as we, start to try to fix them, you need therapy, you need to change your behavior, and they're modeling our behavior, and so that sends a message to them that they're broken and we're not, and they can clearly see that we also are struggling with the same things. So to your point, to role model the behavioral changes that you want to see in your own kids, the old adage, be the change. And I think that that's the only way that you can actually create the change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you create nothing but resistance, and they'll just dig in even deeper to resist whatever it is that you're trying to quote unquote fix in them, because your kids really aren't broken. We're all just human beings doing the best we can on this planet, and we all need support for our mental and emotional health. It's not an easy landscape that we're living in today.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And our children are the ones who are moving through this with all the messaging, um
Yeah.
and so if we can be there not as an oracle in the sky with all the answers, but as
And or
someone to process that the world can be hard
right,
and the world can be confusing, and it's okay to talk about the things, and it's okay to love people through differences is so crucial.
it
Um
is.
and the more that we can role model to our kids that it's okay to make mistakes and move through them, the more our children will be able to do that with their own relationships as they grow and develop, which is community.
Right. So right there, you're speaking to how important it is to take responsibility and accountability. That's another role modeling. The more I take responsibility for my own, gifts as well as challenges, the more
Yeah,
my children have the freedom to do that too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's, we I think that sometimes we look at our kids and we have the same expectations of them right now that we had a year and a half ago before quarantine. And it's not fair because so much has changed. And so, really recognizing that things are confusing and we all have thoughts and feelings around what's gone on, and that they change daily, like you had mentioned earlier, and that if we can be kind to each other and we as parents can remind our children that we love them and we care about them and we want to hear their voices and we want to hear their thoughts, not because we want to know where they take a stance on something, but because it's crucial to growth and development to talk about the hard things or the uncomfortable things or the things that we don't have really words for yet. And with more conversation will come more understanding. And if anyone is struggling with substance use, there may be an opportunity there to introduce that conversation or not start from such a far place when
Right.
someone needs help and support.
Right. This has been so great, Jen. Is there anything you'd like to share in closing tonight for our audience?
I'm just so thankful to be here. And Judy, and Ben Speaks, you do incredible work, and to be able to share, kind of what the Safe Coalition does tonight and some of our numbers, and really how we understand the work that we do with families, that it's never an individual, that it's a family system, and that the more that we can work with people through care and compassion, the more that the light at the end of the tunnel is an opening for more opportunities and not another oncoming train. We want to be able to do that. So I can't thank you enough. It's been wonderful to be here.
It's been wonderful to have you. We're so very grateful. And if you want to just give the audience quickly your contact information, how do they find you?
Sure. So I'm with the Safe Coalition, and our website is www.safecoalitionma.org. And then if you want to email us, info@safecoalitionma.org. And we also have Facebook, Safe Coalition, and Instagram, Safe Coalition. So please feel free to reach out anytime. We're always so open to talking with individuals and families. And if we don't have the resources for you, we look to, Judy and other community partners to kind of fill those needs.
Yes, you have all the connections. So people don't only reach out to you regarding issues around substance abuse, although that is, what you are really focused on majority of the time. But there are other things that people can come to you for as well.
Absolutely. So we do have clinical support. We have partnered with Wayside Youth and Family Support Network, and we do clinical programming, so therapy for adolescents, for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. We do legal court advocacy, and we have a division of our organization that's dedicated to family recovery
Family recovery and grief recovery, is
and
that
grief
right?
recovery. Yes.
Very good. Awesome. Well, Jen, thank you so much for taking time out of your
Thank you. Thank you.
wonderful busy life and for sharing with us all your incredible plethora of knowledge. You're amazing. I hope that people will reach out to you and take advantage of this incredible organization that you started on behalf of families to address this huge issue in our culture. And I think bit by bit, you guys are making a huge difference. I know that together we can make a huge difference. And we're really grateful for you. We're grateful for Max Skinner, Anthropic, and all the other partners that we have out in the community. But you guys do amazing work. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much, Trudy. This has been wonderful. And